Man, it is never easy watching films depicting all the crimes committed against our race, our people, and especially hard to watch films recounting the murder of our leaders. It's like even, watching biopics and things about history and the crimes committed, atrocities against, any people, especially Black people in America, even when we know what's coming, when we know the story already, and, knowing that Malcolm X was to be brutally assassinated that day in the Audubon Ballroom, it doesn't change the fact that watching it play out on screen, it's gut wrenching. Your heart, I cried when I saw that movie, it is what it is, and it hurts. And this film, Judas and the Black Messiah, I had some apprehension when the trailer first came out. I think I talked about that on my channel. I wasn't sure how the script would play out and how how Shaka King would handle the material. But I got a chance to watch this, and it took me a couple of days to get this review up. I didn't put it up right away as soon as the movie came out. I had some trouble. Just, it's one of those things. But we're going to talk about it right here on Film Fan next. Welcome to Film Fan, my channel where I discuss all things film and film related. If that is also your thing and you're into that kind of stuff, you want to hear me talk about movies and television and this, that, and the other, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're new here. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you joining me, and the notification bell so you know when I put up new content and you do not miss it. Okay, so Judas and the Black Messiah, currently streaming on HBO MAX, written by Shaka King and Will Burson and directed by Shaka King. Okay, so if you haven't seen this film, I'm not going to do the play-by-play and, scene-by-scene thing of, what's going on. I'm just going to give you the quick backstory if you don't know any of it already. If you have seen it already, then you know how this goes, and I'm just basically going to give you my take on the film and what I thought of it. So it's basically a story about how the FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover, who in this movie is played by Martin Sheen, in a really creepy-looking makeup. But the FBI and their COINTELPRO operation, which basically harassed and falsely imprisoned and humiliated political organizations here in the United States, including the Black Panther Party, they use an informant in the FBI to basically infiltrate the Black Panther chapter in Chicago, Illinois, and to eventually assassinate their leader, which was Fred Hampton. So O'Neill is played by Lakeith Stanfield, and Fred Hampton is brilliantly brought to life by Daniel Kaluuya. So the way this whole thing plays out, and again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but O'Neill basically, he's arrested, and then the FBI bring him in, an FBI agent named Roy Mitchell, who's played by Jesse Plemons, brings him in and tells him, look, infiltrate the Black Panthers and get close to Fred Hampton, and then you won't go to jail. It's basically what this is. All right. And the movie depicts O'Neill cozying up to Fred Hampton, or, infiltrating the Black Panther Party, endearing himself to the members there, and then eventually ultimately betraying him and having him, assisting in his assassination. That's what this is. So on December 4th, 1969, the police, the FBI, Chicago police, abetted by the FBI, raided the apartment where Fred Hampton and his 8 months pregnant fiance were sleeping, along with other members of the Black Panther Party, including Mark Clark, who was actually assassinated in that as well. Now, just a quick piece of this. O'Neill was surreptitiously approached by another agent in a bar and was told to drug Fred Hampton. Basically, they wanted him, I guess, asleep when they assassinated. You talk about some cowardly shit. I mean, the whole thing is disgusting, right? But it's like, yeah, we need to drug him so he can't even wake up and defend himself or can't run. It's just the shit like that will get you fired up. But anyway, O'Neill actually does drug him. So by the time they do the raid on the apartment, he doesn't even get up. And then when they realize he's still alive and hasn't been shot, they execute him. I mean, literally execution style, just right there, just put bullets in him. So that's what this whole thing is. That's what this movie is about. And that's the backstory. And damn if it won't anger you. And damn if it didn't piss me off. That's why I don't watch slave pictures. That's why I watch some slave movies, and it's just like, all right, first of all, I've seen, we don't need to be told the same story over and over again, but they always anger you and like light a fire inside you, except for Django Unchained, which I'll get into another time on this channel. It's one of my favorite movies, and I'll talk about why that movie happens to be the exception. But yeah, watching shit like this, you get fired up, you get angry. And this is that scene I just described about when they raid his apartment and his fiance is there and she's 8 months pregnant is just to see the way they come in and see what they do. And this is part of American history. Unfortunately, this is not taught. This is history that is conspicuously absent from the curriculum of American studies. Right. So we don't learn about these things. Sure, they gave us Malcolm X, which I'm surprised they gave us that. But we definitely get Martin Luther King, and we definitely, we learned about Abraham Lincoln. He freed the slaves. There's a whole bunch of bullshit in history books, but there's so much stuff. There's so much beautiful stories and leaders and people. I mean, Fred Hampton was 21 years old. This is an educated brother. This was a powerful orator, somebody who just had ideals and had visions for people, not just his people. Sure, the Black Panther Party was about protecting our people in our communities, marginalized communities, and making sure that the police were monitored for their actions and their systematic just offing of Black men and women and children. So, this is a story of a guy. In fact, it's probably one of the things. I only have a couple of complaints about the movie. One of them would have been that I preferred that there were more about Fred Hampton. I wish there was just more detail there, and I preferred that this has been a longer story with more detail about him, about the Black Panther Party in general. Like, I almost want to see a full movie about the Black Panthers and see everything, and see, Bobby Seale, Huey P. Newton. I want to see kind of everything. That wasn't the case here, and that's fine. Again, the performance by Daniel Kaluuya was just, he brought Fred Hampton's fiery sense of everything together, but he also had that balance of, this is a guy who's highly educated, who is a loving person. And we got to get glimpses of that. And like I said, Kaluuya's performance here is just like not to be underestimated. And that is the highlight. That's the standout of the actual film. Lakeith Stanfield did a great job. Fantastic. Overall, everyone was great. Okay. The other complaint I have was that, speaking of Lakeith Stanfield and William O'Neill, the William O'Neill role was not fleshed out, I don't think, enough. It was just he gets busted. He's a thief. He gets busted. He winds up getting, he becomes an informant. And that's kind of like, you don't get a sense of anything from this guy. You don't tell if he's, he's on the line. He's not quite sure what to do. I mean, sure, he contributes to the Black Panther Party and does his role, I guess. But the whole time, it's just the only thing he's ever worried about is getting caught and being found out that he's a rat bastard. And that's it. And he's worried about his balls being fed to him eventually and being, put in a lake, which is a reasonable and a rational, fear, I guess, if you're a rat. But it just, you never got moments of his conscious, like him grappling with his conscious. There is one scene actually where it's like a dream segment for a couple seconds, but that's about it. I didn't get enough from this character. I don't think it was fleshed out right. And I also would have preferred to see a little more relationship with him and Fred Hampton and the building of that and how things played out. But, other than that, there's not too much more, to say that's negative. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I did, I could probably go on and on and on and do this, do this long thing on this and get political and get angry and make this a messy review. I just don't want to do that. I wanted to make this about the movie. I think Shaka King did a great job with the film. I almost wish, going back to what I said earlier about, having more material on Fred Hampton, the Black Panther Party, and a better fleshed out character, William O'Neill. I almost felt like I could have, if this was a 3-hour movie, I would have been happier. The same way, referencing Malcolm X again, Spike Lee's Malcolm X. It was a long film, but I loved every second of it. So I could have dealt with this being a 3-hour movie. Maybe in the future we'll get something along those lines. We'll get much more of a story regarding the Black Panther Party. And again, for those who don't know the history of the Black Panther Party or don't know the motivations and such, and think it's, a lot of times because of white history textbooks and what we're taught. It's this idea that the Black Panthers were violent. There was a point where they made Malcolm X to be, violent, and Malcolm was peaceful, and Martin was peaceful, and Malcolm was violent, and that's not true. Same thing with Black Panther Party. So I think for a lot of people who don't know the history, for younger generations who are unaware of the events in the 60s and what took place up until the end of the Black Panther Party, which I believe is like 80, 82 or somewhere along those lines. It's good to know what they stood for. It's good to know what their movement meant. And it's so relevant for today. I think that's what makes it really, these films, you're watching things play out that took place all these years ago. And yet, today in America, the very same things are taking place. And that is disturbing, to say the least. So this was a film that took a small chapter of our history, took one of our great leaders. The guy was 21 years old. This guy was just unbelievable and basically offed him, robbed him. So yeah, if you saw this movie, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. If you haven't seen it, go just watch it. All right, it's in theaters, limited theaters, and it's also on HBO MAX streaming. So go ahead and check it out. When you do, come back and let me know what you thought about it. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. I appreciate that. And again, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss new content. That's it for me on Film Fan. I'll see you on the next one.